Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, it is an honor to be doing this right now. I've never done a week of Commanders Nightly News that started with the number 20. This is the first time. To get this far in the process, you have to not only make it to the playoffs, but win a playoff game. We will get to 21 at some point here, right? This is amazing. Like, I've never been to episode 20.2 before. I've been to 20.1 when we lost in 2020. And that wasn't Commanders Nightly News. That was Washington football, news. Washington Nightly News. That's what that was. WNN. Washington Nightly News, or Washington Football Nightly News, WFNN. I've never been to episode 20.2, meaning that there's still more football left to be played. And I have no intentions of this thing ending. I think I can speak for everyone out there when I say I don't think you guys have any intention of it ending either. And I've been really adamant with you guys, kind of just imploring that you stay in the moment. Enjoy this ride, right? Nothing is guaranteed to us, although it feels like we're at the very beginning of a very beautiful run that is going to produce tons of winning and maybe even multiple trophies to add to the case. But you can't be assured of that. And I've said this already. There won't be another iteration of this squad, right, as we know it. This is the first. And this group is going to pave the way for the teams that are to come down the road. So this one's special. But in saying all of that, I want to reiterate to you the fact that we are, ladies and gentlemen, 60 minutes away from going to the NFC Championship game since 1991, for the first time since 1991. Now, I get it. The number one seeded Detroit Lions stand in the way, and we have to go through them for 60 minutes to get there. But let that sink in. We are 60 minutes away from the NFC Championship game. A lot of jokes have been had over the years about haven't been to the NFC Championship game since ... haven't won anything since ... We can put all that shit to bed. If we can have one more point than the Detroit Lions after 60 minutes of football. Maybe it takes a little bit more. DQ's talked about, hey, this might be a 60-minute fight. It might be a 70-minute fight. Maybe longer. We got to be ready for whatever it looks like. My old friend Kevin Sheehan, haven't listened to his podcast in roughly 2 years. I used to be an everydayer. And then I just got busy. And, haven't listened to him in quite some time, but he's a passionate fan just like the rest of us. And it was good to hear his voice. And I want to play something for you from his show, his radio program that he does every day, 6 to 9, Monday through Friday, rather, 6 to 9 on the Team 980. This somehow ended up on my timeline. I don't know how. I don't know how I managed to stumble over this, but it did. And it resonated because we all feel this way. And we've been talking about this for the entire season, roughly since, for me, week 3. I want you to take a listen to Kevin Sheehan talking about where we are, what this season has been, and what it could potentially be, and why we have a chance on Saturday night.
We are now officially in the midst of a truly memorable season
for this franchise. It could become all-time memorable over the next few weeks. But 12 wins, 13 now, a playoff win led by the greatest rookie quarterback in NFL history is legit memorable. I'm not ready for it to end. I don't think most of you are either. And obviously the team believes in itself, believes there is more to come. They just won their 5th straight game in the final 6 seconds of the game. 3 of the 5 on the final play of the game. They shouldn't be doing this with a rookie quarterback, especially, and no offense to the rest of the team, this just doesn't happen with a rookie quarterback with a, let's be nice and call it a flawed supporting cast. You know, there are good things about the supporting cast. I'm not disparaging the whole group. But when you can't run the ball and you have a problem stopping the other team, and yet you win 13 games, 6 in a row, 5 of them in near walk-off fashion, I mean, you're either living right or your quarterback is all world. I think we know which of the two it is. Jayden Daniels is Superman. We have Superman at quarterback. When you have a quarterback this good, anything is possible, including going to Ford Field on Saturday night in Detroit and beating the 1 seed. They, of course, can win this game Saturday night. They absolutely can beat the Lions on Saturday night. They haven't been to an NFC title game in 33 years. They're now 60 minutes away from that. And Superman plays for our team. So anything is possible.
So that was Kevin Sheehan. And he is so spot on. And I've heard Jayden Daniels called whatever, right? Some of everything. Jedi 5, Superman, as Kevin Sheehan just called him. You call him whatever you want, honestly. I call him one of them ones, right? Because that's what he is. There's only 5 of them in the league, and he's one of them. And when you got one of them ones, you got a shot. Nothing's out of reach. Nothing's out of bounds. Everything is possible. The odds can be stacked in the opposition's favor, but the playing field is evened when you have one of them ones. I said this on the last episode of Commanders Nightly News. Every time our defense steps on the field from this point forward, the rest of this season, they're going to be at a stark disadvantage. Our defense isn't more talented than any of the offenses it's going to face the remaining 3 or 4 games that are left for this team, or 3 games rather for this team, if they should make it that far. Whether it's Detroit, the winner of the Rams and Eagles game, and then the Super Bowl, if we were to make it there, and whoever makes it out of that side of the bracket, I can assure you that their offense is way more talented than our defense. We can't stop the run, not consistently for 4 quarters. We don't get a consistent pass rush. We don't generate turnovers. We don't have a dynamic run game ourselves. We can create explosive plays in the pass game, but it usually comes via one-on-one coverage down the field, and we may get a lot of that this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we can exploit it. But at the end of the day, we're not the more talented team. We haven't been most of the season. And yet, here we are, sitting here in the divisional round with a shot to go to the championship game. And Jayden Daniels is the biggest reason why. Everyone's going to tell you, non-Commanders fans are going to tell you, this is where your road ends. This is where your journey, your trip, your ride, it ends. it was funny because I'm the only Commanders fan in my family, so everyone's like, yeah, oh, that was a nice win, but y'all ain't winning the next game. Like, they didn't even want to let me enjoy the dub before they tried to rain on my parade. But what they don't know is I got 5. I got 5 on it. And because of that, we are 60 minutes away from our first appearance in the NFC Championship game since 1991. Let that sink in. In other news, we heard from head coach DQ, quarterback Jayden Daniels. We got our first look at the injury report. Remember, this week is consolidated and condensed because of the short week. The game is on Saturday, not Sunday, so everything is shifted a day. So instead of Wednesday being the first day of practice where we hear from DQ and Jayden Daniels and get your first injury report, that's Tuesday. And I talked about this yesterday, so everything shifts up a day. So we'll talk about what DQ had to say. We'll talk about what Jayden had to say. But before we do any of that, obviously, let's take a look at the injury report for both teams, starting with the good guys. And don't be alarmed by the injury report on a Tuesday. Normally, this is a day that the guys continue to recover and get ready. And so I'm not concerned whatsoever. As you can see, DQ, when he started talking about the injuries, because he had his press conference prior to practice, he pretty much said, we had 4 guys that are going to just rest, that they're not injured in any capacity, just rest, right? Jamison Crowder, Zach Ertz, Cleveland Farrell, and Dante Fowler Jr. are all just getting rest. Jordan McGee, we talked about this yesterday. That's a big loss with the hamstring injury. I think he's done for the season, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens. And, as we advance further into this thing, he may be able to come back, but it doesn't feel like he'll be able to come back unless we make it to the Super Bowl. That's my feeling right now. Bobby Wagner, that's the first time I think we've seen him show up on the injury report all season long. And, normally Bobby's a machine. So when he doesn't get up right away, I'm shocked and I'm mortified at the same time. And there was a, situation on that final Bucks drive where he makes a tackle and he doesn't get up right away. And I'm like, Bobby, get up. Bobby, you can't get hurt. You can't get hurt. You get up, Bobby. And he gets up and he's wincing, but he gets back in the huddle and they tried to go, tempo. And so Bobby's got an ankle, but I know he's going to be ready. And I'm not worried. But, boy, we need him like we need air to breathe on defense. Zane Gonzalez, hip. I don't want to hear that. Like, what are you doing on the injury report, bro? Seriously, what are we doing here? Why are you – now, again, it's Tuesday, and normally this would be a rest day, but I don't need to see you on the injury report for no reason. What are we doing right now? Like, I don't need this shit in my life. I don't need any injuries with kickers. I don't need any soreness, none of that. So hopefully he's good. And by the time we get to like Wednesday or Thursday, he's no longer even on this thing, right? Deron Payne finger, we knew about that. That finger reduced him to just 18 snaps in the wild card game against Tampa Bay. Ben Sinnott shoulder, he's limited. John Bates' shoulder was full. Rest of the guys are full. Dominique Hampton back full. Marshawn Lattimore hamstring full. Frankie Louvu shoulder full. Colson Yankoff hamstring full. What's going to be interesting now with the injury to Jordan McGee, someone's got to take that spot. And I'm going to assume that they're going to want another linebacker up. So I'm thinking Dominique Hampton's number may get called here. Now, it could turn into Colson Yankoff, and you could add another tight end. Because really, you're just looking for somebody to fill that special teams void. But I'm just thinking in the event that something goes down, you want another linebacker. But we've also seen this season that if anything were to happen to Michael Walker or they're not happy with him when they get into those big packages or, they got to put another linebacker on the field. They won't hesitate to put the special teams linebacker on the field. We've seen that a couple of times this season. So the one from Seattle, I don't know why his name escapes me right now, but if that's the case, then you could go with Colson Yankoff instead of Dominique Hampton, because Yankoff has been active this season, whereas I don't think Dominique Hampton has been. I could be wrong about that. Early in the season, he could have been active, but it feels like he hasn't been active for us the entire year, whereas Yankoff was active the first about 4 or 5 weeks before he sustained that hamstring injury, and he hasn't been back since. So we'll see. Remember, his window is still open. This is the second week of Colson Yankoff's window being open, so we'll see what they decide to do. Meanwhile, you go to the ops, and this is what you get when a team is coming off of a bye, right? This is what you get. 5 guys on the injury report. And, quick story. 4 of these guys are really impactful players, but the expectation is that Terrion Arnold and David Montgomery will be ready to go. And, with David Montgomery, I remember when he got hurt, and I was like, man, that sucks for Detroit, man. He was playing so well and yada, yada, yada. I thought he was done for the season. And then we heard maybe 2 weeks ago that he could be back after, if the Lions, win that final Week 18 game versus Minnesota and they get the number 1 seed and they get the first round bye, he could be back post-bye. And I was like, man, that's cool. That's what's up, man. Yeah, he's been really good for them, and he's a big part of what they do. And now that we're sitting in that seat opposite of them, it never dawned on me that, hey, that could be us playing them. No, I don't want David Montgomery back. Now it's not a cool story that, hey, he's back, but, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Like, we can't dodge the smoke. We can't duck and dodge guys playing. Like, we want to beat Detroit. We're going to have to beat them. I won't say at full strength because clearly they're banged up, but, this is as healthy as they're going to get, obviously, with, them coming off of a bye. So, Pat O'Connor, I thought I saw him play against the Packers. He was almost unblockable, it felt like, in the first half of that game. So he's dealing with a calf injury, didn't practice today. We'll keep tabs on him. Ennis Wickerstraw is one of 2 rookie corners that the Lions have on their roster. He's dealing with a hamstring and an illness, but they're very thin at corner right now, so they need all hands on deck at the cornerback position. So, we'll keep tabs on that. Kevin Zeitler is one of their starting offensive linemen. He's been really good. So that's something to keep an eye on with the hamstring. Terrion Arnold, as I mentioned, had the foot injury in the final game of the regular season versus Minnesota. Looked bad. He had to get carted off the field, but he's a full participant today. We'll keep tabs on him. And like I said, that cornerback position is very thin. I actually want Terrion Arnold out there because he's a liability. I'd be shocked if he's not top 3 in pass interference or just defensive penalties this season. I'd be shocked if he's not top 3 in the league. So he's their version of Benjamin St-Juste, essentially. Like, he's better than him, obviously, but he gets flagged quite a bit. So I actually want him out there. I think we can have our way with him, and I think we can draw some penalties. If we can't make the catch, he'll give us some penalties. That's the hope. And then David Montgomery, as I mentioned, full participant with the knee. Great, just what we need. More artillery in their backfield, knowing that we can't stop the run as is. But you know what? That might not be the worst thing, because more David Montgomery means less Jahmyr Gibbs. Which one scares you the most? I can tell you which one scares me the most. So not the worst thing in the world. What I don't need is 35, snaps of Jahmyr Gibbs, right? 35, potential touches, or 30 touches, 22 carries and another 6 or 7 catches. That's what I don't need from Jahmyr Gibbs. So now he'll be a little fresher, right? He'll be a little fresher now, and that's not good. That's scary, but I'll take my chances with David Montgomery, I guess. I mean, it's Sonic and Knuckles. They're tough to deal with, period. End of discussion. So not going to be good for us either way, but looks like he's going to be available this week. We'll keep tabs on all of these players, but it's not a lot here, obviously, as you can see. That's what happens when you're coming off of a bye week. So let's talk about what DQ and Jayden had to say. We'll start with DQ. Obviously, he started off his presser by talking about the condensed nature of this week and how today serves as Wednesday, essentially. And he was talking about, Dan Campbell. He was asked about Dan Campbell and his success and what have you learned, if anything, from him? And, are there any things that you've, kind of added to your game watching him do what he's done in Detroit? And he was like, first of all, he's doing a phenomenal job. And he said one of the things that Dan Campbell has done a tremendous job of is, kind of setting that culture. We watched them on Hard Knocks a couple of years ago, and the mantra was grit. And that's what they personify. I mean, he turned into a meme, and that soundbite will live on forever about biting kneecaps. But that whole statement, and I've been a huge fan of Dan Campbell because he's in your face. Like, their approach is in your face. It's flagrant. It's aggressive. It's abrasive. And if you're not ready for it, they're going to trample all over you. Like, they're bullies. Make no mistake about it. And they don't apologize for nothing. They coming in and they looking to punch you square in the mouth. And if you're not ready, and if you're not going to fight back, and if you cower even the slightest, they are going to trample all over you, because that is the mentality that starts from the head up, which is Dan Campbell. Starts with Dan Campbell. They don't back down. They don't blink. They don't flinch in big moments. They're going for it on fourth down. We know it's going to be a 4-down affair this week. And it's not just 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. Nah, it's 4th and 6. Like, they're equal opportunity offenders. Once they get to certain points on the field, they don't give a shit. Right? So we gotta definitely find a way to kind of match that intensity. He talked about, the things that the Lions have done, and he's like, they got a really good sense of that because of Lance Newmark being in our building. And I think that's also a slight advantage. We can get a little bit of intel from Lance Newmark as to, how they do things, and, maybe some weaknesses of Jared Goff or, some of the, players on that team. Maybe we could, gain a little bit of insight. It won't be much. There's not going to be much that Lance Newmark will be able to tell us that's going to give us a decided advantage, but anything helps, right? He was asked about David Blau, and he talked about, David Blau, meeting him, and why he has a chance to be a really good coach. And he, DQ talked about wanting to be a part of his journey, and giving him this opportunity to start his coaching career here in Washington. And he, DQ also talked about watching him blossom, and he thinks he's going to be a fantastic coach. Something DQ talked about with respects to the Detroit Lions, and something that he absolutely loves about them, is that they haven't compromised despite the injuries this season. And that's the thing that's probably blown my mind watching the Lions, is that generally when you incur as many injuries as the Lions have this season, there have to be some philosophical changes and adjustments made to adapt to the new personnel that you're putting on the field. Obviously, your backups and the backups aren't going to be as good as the starters. So maybe, like, for instance, we've been aggressive this season no matter who's been in the game. Joe Witt Jr. said, we haven't protected the corners. And he's right. They haven't protected the corners. And that's why we've given up some stuff at times, especially early in the season. We've been a little bit more hesitant to put guys on an island after the struggles ensued. And, we started to see some of the depth at corner be tested. We kind of shied away from playing man coverage, right? Which is what they ultimately want to do. They want to play man, and they want to be aggressive and things of that nature. But we can't. We had to adapt to a different style based off of the personnel that we had. The Lions aren't doing that defensively. Aaron Glenn isn't adapting and adjusting to anything. This is his style. We're in your face. We're being aggressive. We're coming up. We're playing man coverage. We're pressuring on third downs. Deal with it. And DQ was like, I can respect that. Like, I love the approach. Like, hey, this is how we get down, fellas. You know, either fall in line or get out of here. But this is how we get down. So, this is how we get down. So he was really impressed with that. And, you know, they asked, are you going to, you know, do anything different this week? Are you going to, you know, knowing that Detroit has extra time to prepare for the game, they're going to probably throw a couple of wrinkles at you that you haven't seen, yada, yada. And he's like, nah, we got enough to prepare for with Detroit as is, okay? They're good everywhere, and we know that we got our hands full. So we're just going to prepare for the things that we need to prepare for, you know, get ready for certain matchups that we need to get ready for, and, you know, we'll adjust accordingly. So that's really where, you know, DQ was coming from in this press conference. And I think that's the right approach. Like, we just got to be who we are. And it's the same type of fight. Like, I honestly think this is cut and paste, right? Cut and paste. Copy and paste, however you want to phrase it. That's how this game is. Same mentality, same mindset you went into the Bucs game with is the same one you got to go into the Detroit game with. We're going to have to win this game on offense. Period. Nothing else needs to be said. The biggest difference is Detroit is going to match our aggressiveness, or maybe I should say the other way around. We have to match their aggressiveness because Tampa is coached by a defensive-minded guy who was going to be more conservative than aggressive. Tampa didn't have a single fourth down attempt in the game. Obviously, that's not going to be replicated this upcoming week. So we know what's at stake. We know what the situation dictates. And I have nothing but the utmost confidence that this group will be ready because they've been ready all season long. As far as Jayden Daniels is concerned, he was asked about, you know, it wasn't really a lot to glean from his presser because, you know, the media is so fascinated with his kind of stoic demeanor. And so they ask him multiple questions, which he's been peppered with those all year long. It's like they just find different ways to ask the same question. Where did you get it from? And he's told the same story. I got it from my dad. And, you know, are you nervous? When's the last time you've been nervous? Like, this is the shit they're asking him. Like, they don't really have real questions at this point. But I can tell you that in listening to Jayden, I do think that the environment is something that we got to talk more about as this week progresses. And he did talk about that being a very noisy environment. And unlike Tampa, where we were able to go in there and have a sizable contingent in attendance, that is not going to happen in Detroit. They are so juiced up for their Lions right now. They've created an environment where there's a waiting list for season tickets now. I looked at the diagram for the available tickets on the, you know, secondary market, and those things are astronomical just to get in the building. I mean, I'm seeing tickets in the nosebleeds going for like $7 to a stack. So it's definitely a tough situation, and I don't see a lot of Commanders fans being in attendance at this game. So it's going to be a lot of Honolulu blue in the stands. It's going to be loud, and we're going to have to be sure that we are able to adapt and adjust. And Jayden even said, yeah, I've been in a lot of, you know, different stadiums, especially playing in the SEC, that were loud and raucous, but you know, this one's going to be different. This is an NFL stadium. It's enclosed. I can't imagine him playing in any SEC stadiums that were enclosed, right? This is a different animal. Most of those are open stadiums that hold a hell of a lot more people, but you close the top on something and it's 70,000 screaming fans. That sounds a lot louder than 110 in an open environment. That's for damn sure. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we adjust to that, because one of the things that we were able to do in this game was kind of stay clean penalty-wise from an operation setup. Now, we did waste a couple of timeouts in the first half. That did happen, but we were relatively clean operation-wise in the second half. We didn't have many procedural penalties. I don't even think we had a false start the entire night. We didn't line up incorrectly. We didn't have any, illegal shifts or anything like that. But all of that could change. And Jayden said the key to that is getting to the line of scrimmage, going with tempo, getting up there, seeing the looks so you can make the proper adjustments and have plenty of time to do it. And that's the key, is being able to get into some sort of a rhythm that allows you to go tempo, to also keep the crowd quiet. You get a 15-yard completion, that's going to shut their ass up. And then if you go tempo, they're not going to be as amped as if it's an incomplete pass and now it's 3rd and 8. Now they can get loud, and they hand out those threes on 3rd down in Detroit. So you're going to see all those threes as if you're at an NBA game with all of this stuff, flying around. And yeah, it can get a little, and he's like, I'm not going to be swayed by that. Jayden was like, I'm good. Like, I'm not worried about any of it, but I do know it's going to be a live environment, and I'm looking forward to playing in it. He talked about the supporting cast that he has. Obviously family, mom, dad. His LSU brothers came out and supported. I know you've all seen the video of Malik Neighbors at the game, and then Brian Thomas Jr., who plays for the Jaguars, came as well. And then they all took a picture together, and Jayden posted it on his IG after the game. So, it was good to see him have support from his boys. And he talked about that supporting cast. And he's like, look, man, and his support system, he's like, they helped me out so much. They allowed me to focus on football. And then, his brothers, he's like, I built a bond with those dudes in those couple of years at LSU that can't be broken. And it was cool to have their support. And I imagine that they're going to be at the game in Detroit on Sunday or Saturday night as well. But Jayden talked about, the receivers stepping up, making plays, and they asked him about, the others, essentially, the Jamison Crowder, Diami, and Olamide, and guys like that. And he was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, those dudes put in the work, and they've been making plays all year. But here of late, those dudes have been stepping up major. OZ against Atlanta, and Diami in the biggest game of his career. I get upset when people say a career day for Diami. He's had more yards receiving. He's had more touchdowns receiving in games. He's never had that many catches, though, in a game. And he hasn't ever been that impactful in a game before. But he's had more yards and more touchdowns in a game before. But it was sort of a career night, but it wasn't, right? If we're being technical. But as a Commanders fan, that was a career night to us. But guys have stepped up, and he said, I'm not surprised. That's what they do, right? And then he was asked about Detroit's defense, and he's like, yo, a lot of man coverage. I'm hoping, I'm praying. We're going to get into that later on in the week, but I'm hoping and praying they keep playing that man coverage, because we could eat that shit alive. And when you playing a guy like Jayden Daniels, if you playing man coverage and you bringing pressure and you don't get to him, we all know what could happen, right? The beauty of it is they haven't seen Lamar this season. So they're not prepared for a mobile quarterback. They don't have one of those in their division. Caleb was a little slippery, but he ain't Jayden Daniels or Lamar Jackson. Jordan Love, he ain't running around doing none of that shit. So they haven't seen this level, and Sam Darnold ain't doing that neither. They haven't seen this level of athleticism this season. This is next level shit. So if they want to be aggressive and they want to blitz, now again, if you get the right pressure and you set it up correctly, you can force Jayden to make a decision quickly. But I'll take my chances one-on-one on the outside if he gets it. And I'll take my chances with Jayden being able to tuck it and run too. If they make a mistake and they give him a gap and he's able to take off. And if you're in man coverage with your back turned, we've been waiting for that 65-yard touchdown scamper all year, right? We've been waiting. This could be the one. We'll see. But we'll talk more about that later on in the week, but he talked about Kirby Joseph and he talked about Brian Branch and those guys being guys that can take the ball away. And so, really needing to have your head on a swivel, understanding where those guys are at all times, making sure you are safe with the football, because Kirby Joseph leads the NFL in interceptions and Brian Branch is a dog. And I always tell y'all, he should have been a Commander. That one still stings a bit, but he's a dog. And you got to know where he is at all times as well. So that was Jayden Daniels in a nutshell. Now, let's transition to our first look at the Detroit Lions. What a game, man. What an environment. I can't begin to tell you how much excitement I'm going to have for this game, how much fun I'm having right now, and how exciting it is to be playing in this type of a ball game, in that environment, with this team, with our quarterback, knowing what's at stake and knowing that nobody's giving us a chance. Like, I don't know the actual odds for the game right now. I know it started off at 9.5. I wouldn't be shocked if somehow it got to double digits, and depending on what book you're looking at, it might already be at double digits. The fact of the matter is, nobody's giving us a chance in hell to go into Detroit and win. So we got nothing to lose. We're so dangerous because of that fact. Now, that can only take you so far, right? That whole us against the world mentality, nobody's giving us a chance, putting that chip on your shoulder, that's all fine and dandy, but you still got to go out and make it happen. And I can tell you this right now, Detroit's offense is the absolute worst matchup for us because, one, like early in the season, I would have felt more confident against Detroit because I would have said, hey, we getting pressure on the quarterback. Jared Goff ain't going nowhere. I feel good about our ability to get to him. Frankie Louie has become non-existent as a pass rusher. We don't have any kind of real exotic blitzes that create, a free hitter. And so if you can't get to Jared Goff, he's going to slice and dice your ass up. And so for me right now, you don't even have the advantage of saying, well, he's not Baker Mayfield, he can't run, because it don't matter. We let Cooper Rush slice and dice us because we couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. So as far as I'm concerned, if we're not able to get pressure on Jared Goff, that's a problem in itself. Noah Igbenogany will be tasked with dealing with the best receiver that they have in Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's not a good matchup that favors us, right? And I don't know how they're going to attack the other guys and how they're going to do it, but a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown's damage comes from the slot. So that's a stark disadvantage for us there. Obviously, we can't stop the run consistently. So and again, unlike last week where I wasn't afraid of Bucky Irvin popping one for 62 yards and a touchdown, I am absolutely in fear of our defense giving up a 67-yard touchdown scamper to Jahmyr Gibbs. That is on the table. Every time he touches it, my heart is going to be in my throat or the bottom of my feet. So all of these things are stacked against us. But the key, and we're going to continue to go back to this all week long, is you got to keep it out of their offense's hands. You got to shorten the game. You got to kill them time of possession wise. They got to have, 8 possessions in this game, not 11 or 12. You gotta be able to convert on third downs. And if it's third down and 8, you got to cut it to at least 3rd and 3 so you can go for it and try to convert, stay on the field, and eat up clock and shorten this ball game. I don't think this is a game you want being played in the 30s. I think you want this game in the 20s somehow against Detroit. And if you can keep it in the 20s, you're going to have a shot. And we'll talk more about this Lions team, but I can tell you this, I was more fearful of Tampa Bay's defense than I am Detroit's defense, all right? I was way more fearful of Tampa Bay's defense because of the exotic looks. You get what you see with Detroit. You're going to get pressure. You're going to get man across the board, and you're going to have to make a decision. And we better be equipped mentally, physically to deal with their physicality at the line of scrimmage, right? You better be ready to deal with the pressure, right? We better be able to communicate well, and we better have outlets for the pressure. And so there's a lot that goes into this. And maybe they trick us. Maybe this week they switch it up and all of a sudden they're not blitzing as much because of Jayden's athleticism. I just doubt it. I think they are who they are, and I think they're going to come after him, and we better be prepared. we better be prepared. I mean, I'm looking forward to the challenge. That's for damn sure. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow, where we will go behind enemy lines, really start to dissect this game in all of its splendor and kind of take a look at, what this game means. Hopefully I'll have an opportunity to watch the Tampa game with the mob so we can kind of, put that game to rest, turn the page, officially be all about Detroit, and really start to dive into what makes the Lions such a tough out for us. And why they're the #1 seed in the NFL, not just in the NFC, but, well, yes, I mean, they got technically the same record as the Chiefs, but the Chiefs, when they had all of their people, only lost 1 game. So in any event, I'm looking forward to seeing where we stack up with them statistically, because I already know certain areas they're going to have us beat and they're going to be problematic. But I also think there are going to be some areas that we're going to be quite surprised. And I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I think there are going to be some areas where we're going to be quite surprised that, oh, they're not that good there and they're not that good there, and maybe we can take advantage of them here. So we'll talk about all of those things and then some tomorrow on the show. But until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, and to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first